You ever hear of a lawsuit so wild it makes you question whether you're awake or dreaming? Because let me tell you, I was dragged into the most absurd headline-grabbing lawsuit in federal history all over a well that never even existed. I mean it. Picture this. I'm standing in court minding my own business, and the HOA president, Karen, calls 911 in front of the judge, screaming that I'm an ecological threat to humanity, live right there in the courtroom. And while she's losing her mind, I'm quietly dialing someone who actually has the power to end this circus. 3 days later, every land record Karen had control over frozen. Just like that. But the ride getting there? Buckle up. So quick intro, I'm Jake Morrison, 34, inherited my granddad's cattle farm right on the edge of Austin, Texas. Place had been in my family since the Eisenhower years. My life was pretty simple: cows, cornfields, sunburns, and quiet mornings until the Meadowbrook Springs subdivision popped up next door like a bad rash you can't get rid of. And as fate would have it, the subdivision came with its very own HOA. And that HOA came with its own boss, Karen Peaton. If you've ever met someone who can turn a dandelion in the grass into a citywide emergency, that's Karen. One Tuesday, I'm fixing the fence. Bessie, my cow, thought she was an interior decorator that week when the mail truck rolls up. Nothing unusual until the driver hands me this fat envelope and shoots me a look like he's handing over a jury summons. Return address, Meadowbrook Springs Homeowners Association. Letters tall and angry. I tear it open right there, half expecting another complaint about George the Rooster or my hay bales looking too country. But no, what I get is a demand. Cease all unauthorized well drilling activities immediately, signed by President Karen herself. Apparently, my imaginary well was threatening the subdivision's drainage and might cause the houses to fall into the center of the earth. I laughed out loud. Seriously, my cows even stopped chewing to stare. The well she was talking about. That was a manure pit built when Reagan was still president. The only other water on my property was Grandpa's old pump coughing along and a pond for the cows. But Karen's letter didn't stop there. She claimed I was running an artesian well, not just a regular well, but a free-flowing operation, supposedly draining the neighborhood aquifer, causing their roads to sink their houses to tilt. The kind of technical jargon that only comes from someone deep-diving Wikipedia at 2 a.m. I tried to be reasonable. I called the HOA office. Jennifer answered, sounding nervous, shuffling papers. "Oh, Mr. Morrison." "Mrs. Peaton's in a board meeting about the hydraulic crisis. Charts and graphs everywhere. She's convinced you're behind it somehow. The somehow told me everything. Jennifer didn't buy it, but Karen sure did." See, Karen was a recent transplant from California, a former marketing exec with a knack for finding invisible problems and making them everyone else's. If her Wi-Fi glitched, it was my cow's electromagnetic field. If her roses didn't bloom, it was toxic runoff from my organic operation. Never mind, I used less chemicals than a salad bar. If her morning jog was interrupted by George the Rooster, it was a violation of the Geneva Convention. Still, I figured I could clear it up with a conversation. I put on my best flannel, cleaned up, drove to Meadowbrook Springs. Place looked like Stepford identical houses, lawns so sharp you'd swear someone used tweezers. Karen opens the door before I knock all business. "So you decided to come here and intimidate me. I have evidence." She waves me into her living room, which has been converted into a war room, maps, aerial photos, printouts, like she's tracking Bigfoot. Only it's me. She jabs a finger at a blurry black circle on a photo. "That's your..." Well, I look, it's the manure pit again. I try to explain, "Ma'am, that's where cow poop goes to die, not water." She's not buying it. She pulls out a thick report, all graphs and official-sounding nonsense prepared by Mitchell Crane, Environmental Solutions Specialist. His business card, Gmail address. I ask, "Did this guy ever set foot on my land?" "Karen, he used satellite technology." I Google him. He's an ex-HVAC tech with a hydrology certificate from an online diploma mill. You know what I mean? That's when my neighbor, Eleanor Hartley, retired school principal, real backbone, shows up. Jake, what on earth? She laughed so hard she nearly falls over. Karen accused me of raising monster pigs last week. Eleanor sits down and spills the beans Karen's been trying to buy us out for months. Developers sniffing around taking soil samples. Karen doesn't want a farm next door. She wants a blank slate for her expansion project. The kicker, Karen opens her laptop and instead of denying, shows us emails with Pinnacle Development. She'd been planning to buy our land and add 200 houses to Meadowbrook months before she even dreamed up my phantom well. Later that night, I get a county letter, emergency inspection, possible shutdown. Karen had filed official complaints. I realized this wasn't just Karen being Karen. This was a campaign to bury me in red tape and maybe steal my land. That night, Eleanor and I sit on the porch. I admit I'm scared. She tells me truth will win, son. Your grandpa's sweat is in this soil. Next morning, the inspector, Ryan, Tucker County guy, shows up with more gear than an episode of CSI. I walk him around, show him the pond, the pump, the infamous, well, AKA the pit. He runs every test, shakes his head. Mr. Morrison, there's no unauthorized water extraction here, not even a leaky faucet. Then Karen arrives marching through my pasture with Mitchell in a video camera ready for her big expose. She's streaming live on Facebook, labeling me a water thief. Ryan tells her point blank, ma'am, that's a manure lagoon. No well, no crime. Karen's face priceless. Mitchell tries to flex his expertise. Ryan calls him out, sir, you don't know the difference between groundwater and a rain puddle. Then Ryan makes the real discovery: my land sits 40 feet below the subdivision. Physics, folks. Water flows downhill. If anyone's draining anything, it's Meadowbrook draining into my pasture. But Karen? She doubles down. Live streams again, says the inspector's compromised. The internet lights up. Suddenly, I'm an ecological terrorist. By lunch, my phone's blowing up with hate calls from strangers. I call Ben Cruz's local lawyer thanks to Eleanor. Ben watches Karen's live video, laughs, then gets serious. Jake, you've got defamation, harassment, probably fraud. He tells me let Karen keep digging her own grave, all on camera. Meanwhile, Karen starts reporting me to every agency with an acronym from the EPA to the local library. Every morning's a fresh hell letters, emails, calls, all about violations that don't exist. But here's the twist. Her campaign wakes up the neighborhood. Marcus, an engineer, shows up with folders. Meadowbrook's real problem is their pipes are too small. Their system was cheap from the start. Karen knew, but instead of fixing it, she needed to scapegoat me. Then Sarah Kim, an accountant on the HOA board, slips me documents showing Karen spent $40K of HOA money on fake reports from Mitchell instead of fixing pipes. She's been cooking the books, manipulating votes, hiding evidence. Ben digs into Karen's California past. Turns out this isn't her first rodeo. She pulled the same scam in San Jose, lost in court, fled with $800K debt. She's desperate this land grab is her Hail Mary before bankruptcy. Now it gets wild. Karen hires a private investigator, more like a dude in a sedan with a camera following me, photographing me buying cattle feed, turning daily life into suspicious activities. She posted all online, spinning tales of eco-crimes. It'd be hilarious if it wasn't so creepy. But all this craziness draws in Diana Torres, an investigative journalist. She starts digging, connects the dots. Karen and Mitchell aren't just delusional. They're running a fraud operation, setting up fake companies to create bogus reports and muscle out property owners. Ben links up with Detective Ray Morrison, white-collar crime. Turns out Karen's been on their radar since California, but needed a victim to step forward. We set the trap. I invite Karen to a meeting. She thinks I'm finally ready to sell. She brings cameras, a news crew, wants my public confession. She's got Mitchell her stack of fake reports, her victory speech rehearsed, cameras rolling. I act defeated, ask her to explain it all on record. She does, spills the whole scheme right there, not realizing she's confessing to fraud and harassment in front of half of Austin. Then Commissioner Chen from the Texas Real Estate Commission bursts in, official investigation triggered by Sarah's complaint, and 60% of Meadowbrook's signatures. He exposes Karen's development contracts, fake expenses proves the well was invented as a pretext to force a land grab. Karen snaps calls 911 claiming she's under attack by ecological terrorists. It's live on TV, her meltdown, the cops showing up, Detective Morrison arresting her while she's still ranting about conspiracies. Within a week, the whole mess unravels. Diana's story goes viral. Karen's charged with fraud, defamation, tax evasion. Mitchell's band find out of business. The HOA dissolves. Sarah takes over, apologizes, and hires a real engineer. My farm gets new contracts. Eleanor sits on the advisory board and the subdivision finally upgrades their water system. The kicker. 6 months later, Karen pleads out, gets probation and community service restoring real wetlands, not imaginary ones. Her financial house of cards collapses. I get awarded damages, and then the punchline: a year later, I get a newsletter from a Florida HOA. New president Karen Peaton, conflict resolution specialist. No kidding. Eleanor and I laughed until we cried. If there's a lesson in all this, it's that the truth has a way of clawing to the surface no matter how many lies you bury it under. You deal with bullies by documenting, staying patient, and letting the facts do the talking. If you've got your own crazy HOA war story, or ever tangled with someone who invents problems to push their agenda, drop a comment. Was justice served? Who really wins these battles? Share your take below. If you got something out of this hit, like, subscribe, maybe even donate if you want more stories where the underdog walks away with his land and his dignity. Because around here, drama doesn't scare us. It just makes for better stories.